Penny from the Environment team, and I'm here at the Wollongong Botanic Garden. I'm here today to show you about how to make a fantastic vegetable garden. But before we get started, we need some ingredients. Just like as if you were going to make a really special cake, only this time you're making a special vegetable garden. Things that you'll need: some carbon. Carbon is brown dry stuff like paper, grass clippings, mulch, dried leaves. And you'll also need some nitrogen. That's green smelly stuff like weeds, comfrey, manure like cow or chook poo, but never dog and cat poo, and blood and bone. And you'll need lots and lots of compost. You'll also need a little bit of animal grade molasses just for watering in, and most importantly, you'll need some veggie plants. So first, to get started, you're looking for a patch that's got about 6 hours of sunlight a day. We've chosen this patch right here in the middle of the Botanic Garden. It's got beautiful sunlight. There are some trees around, but otherwise we've got 6 hours here, which is good. The next thing we need to do though is really enrich this soil. This soil is being eaten up all the time by other plants that are around it, by these trees here, and we want to get it going. And we want the worms in the soil to get excited and the other creatures that are living in the soil to get excited too. So to do that, first of all, we're going to put out a party invitation. And our party invitation is some molasses in a watering can. So we'll get that happening now. This is molasses. This is a sugary substance that's going to feed the creatures in the soil. You need about a tablespoon of this straight into your 10 litres of water. But just a quick tip, this bottle can completely explode if the lid goes on too tightly and it ferments inside. So always keep a lid ajar and store it in your shed in a safe way. The first party invitation goes out. As I said, a bit of molasses in water. If you can't get to molasses, use some brown sugar in water. That'll do. All the little guys here are just total sugar addicts. Okay, that's enough to let them know what's going to happen. The next stage is a bit of carbon. Now, you looked at carbon. One of the things that a lot of people have is paper. Don't worry about it if you only have got maybe old school newsletters, anything like that. Just tear it up. Let those creatures get their little teeth into it. If you leave it whole, they can't eat it. And that's why you're tearing it up. Now, if you want to go totally organic, you're going to look for paper that's unbleached and therefore doesn't have dioxins in it. Okay, but there's different sources of carbon. As you can see, we ran out of paper. So we had some mulch. But maybe you don't have mulch. Maybe you've got some old dry grass clippings. Maybe you've got some prunings. Anything like that that is brown and dry can certainly go in. Just spread it out to the space you want. We're going to use about this much. Now we're going to water it again with more of that party invitation. So a bit more water and molasses. Every time you put down a dry layer, put down water. The creatures can't travel through it if it's too dry. We want them to get right through. Okay, now we are up to a nitrogen layer, a smelly layer. Here we go. Now, one of the biggest smelly layers that so many of us have got, weeds. And I want you to get the biggest variety of weeds you can. Find them, put them in. Be proud of your weeds. If you have big weeds, you can get big veggies. All right, these are so important. These guys are full of nutrients that was in your soil that otherwise you're going to put in your green bin and just totally lose all that nutrients. So put it in here. Get them in here. But see how I'm just tucking them in just short of the edges because I don't want any of those weeds to keep growing. Now, if you had seeds on any of these weeds, you'd pull them off. But otherwise, if you've got big bulbs as well, so bulbs on the end, pull those off too because you don't want them to grow. But roots are fine, and this should be fine. We're now going to cover this again with a carbon layer. Now, we've got lots of leaves. Lots and lots of leaves. Maybe you've just cleaned out your gutters. Maybe you're just sweeping your path and keeping your leaves. put them down, cover those weeds over thoroughly. Now you can see there's lots of eucalypt leaves in here, but because there's other material through it, it won't mat. It'll actually stay nice and fluffy and break down easier. Okay, the next layer that I happen to have, we've got comfrey and we've got some cow poo and some chook poo. I like to break my poos up, so I'm going to use a bit of cow poo this time. It's going on, it's going all over it, and you can see it running down the edges. That's what we want. All right, beautiful. Now I've got straw here, but it could be straw and grass clippings. If it is straw or grass clippings, and they're nice and flat, they're going to mat and they're going to stop water from getting through. So that's when you want to use something that's a bit rough to go in amongst it. So we're going to start off with a little bit of these rough palms. Oops. Just going down first. And then we're going to sprinkle this over the top. Alright. So the idea is that you don't buy a lot of this stuff. A lot of these things, okay, a lot of you don't have a cow at home, but a lot of these things you will have at home. So grass clippings, weeds, prunings from other plants, you'll have these things already. They're part of your garden, and you can just give them back to your garden. Okay, so we're up to another water. Alright, so we're up to a nitrogen layer. I've got comfrey here, and the reason why I like comfrey is that it's got roots that go 6 feet down. So it's bringing up minerals that your plants otherwise wouldn't access. But if you don't have all these things at home and you just want to go with a weed layer and a grass clipping layer, that's fine. You can have as many layers as you desire. Now I've put on only a thin layer of comfrey here because I want to use chook poo too. So I'm now going to have a bit of chook poo. The reason I like chook poo is it's alkaline. So most of the things in here are acid. This is going to be our bit of a neutralising factor. Get everything back to being just to the right level. He's going to fall down the sides, that's fine. Happy with that. This garden is actually going to feed all the plants that are around it, which is really good too. Okay, this is our thin carbon layer. And the reason we're doing this one is simply so when we first plant our plants, the roots are not touching that chook poo. It's really important that we don't burn off those little roots. So we just give them this little tiny barrier to give them a bit of security. But the chook poo and all the other things are actually also going to compost down and make this garden warm, which means that the roots will start growing quite quickly, which is really exciting for plants. Alright, so this is compost. Ideally it's compost from your own garden and your own fruit and veggie scraps. That way it's tailor-made just for your garden, for the fruit and veg that you actually eat. Because it's made out of the fruit and veg that you actually eat, and it's made out of the things in your garden. But if you don't have compost, you could use compost that you can purchase. You could use some nice potting mix, that'd be fine. But look at this, there's animals living already in the compost that's straight out of your garden. This is awesome stuff. And it's going to get these veggies really, really pumped. All right, we're up to plants. And when you're having a little veggie patch, it's really, really important to think that all these plants are going to compete for the same nutrients unless you're following this little trick. The trick is you need to have something that's a root crop. I've chosen onions. Something that is a fruit crop, and I've chosen some snow peas. Something that's a leaf crop, I've chosen lettuce. And something that's a flower crop. It's going to bring in good insects, but also you could potentially eat it. And I've chosen these little pansies here. So these guys here are not competing for exactly the same nutrient. Instead, they're actually going to help each other out. And the other tip to companion planting is if you like eating these things together, they'll like growing together. All right, so we get going on planting. in some of these flowers, but here's the thing that is going to break a lot of hearts right now. These gorgeous flowers, at the moment, it's putting all its energy into feeding a flower. You don't want that, I'm sorry. Time to take flowers and flower buds off. You want it to put its energy into developing roots in this beautiful garden. It'll grow more flowers, it'll be okay, and it'll actually grow more flowers because you took these ones off. Alright, it's time to water in those little seedlings. Don't blow them down the ground with a hose. Please gently water them, they're little babies. There's been a few studies done on watering actually, and they found that the more it's like rain, the healthier for the plant. So just be gentle. Alright, once they're watered in, because they're only young, so you're just getting rid of some of those air spaces. Once they're in, you'll be ready for mulching. Alright, before you put on your mulch, always put down either some chook manure or some blood and bone. The reason being is that the mulch is carbon. It's one of those brown dry layers, and it wants to steal nitrogen so it can start to compost down. But to get nitrogen, it's going to steal the green out of your plants. And that's why so many people say that their vegetables went yellow. It's because you mulch them without putting down a nitrogen layer. So you're just going to sprinkle it around, try not to get it on the leaves, but you are going to do another watering in a minute. Alright, so we've chosen to use some of this little tiny pea straw that we have. Just be careful to scrape it back from the plants. Once you put it down, just scratch them back a bit so that the water will still be able to get down in there. Alright, now it's the time just for that final little bit of water. It's just wetting down the mulch, sitting it down, and making sure those plants are really well watered in. And then, once that's done, it's time to sit back and enjoy something else, because these guys are going to grow all on their own. Well done, you've got a veggie garden.